Welcome, actors that may or may not have existed, directors and assistants. I should didn't have time. Didn't take the time to come up with something better. Sorry. To episode 504 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 9th of March, 2024, and featuring the Ninth Doctor Adventures: Monsters in Metropolis, written by John Dorney and starring Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I probably shouldn't be arguing with people on Twitter what triggered means while we're starting a podcast. With me are color commentator Alex Fireheart,
Hello.
technical director Mad Matt Winchell,
I ran all the way here.
and returning after a bit of a break to take advantage of our new schedule is Aaron RomeoMoon Burke.
I have returned.
The rumors of her death have been greatly exaggerated.
How's everybody going? Doing.
Hectic
Doing
day at
pretty
work, but at least it wasn't a bad day at work.
That's good.
Went and saw a movie.
Movies are nice.
Yes.
When they're good ones, anyway.
True. Since I am an addict and a horrible beast of nature, I've ordered another reaction figure. I have Jet Jaguar in the mail as we speak. Because if anything, I am a sucker for Jet Jaguar for no other reason than he was in one Godzilla movie, and that's all I need. And I loved him in the fighting game.
I thought that sentence was going to go that you are addicted to snacks, and that's why we're starting late.
Nope. I'm starting late because even though it wasn't a bad day, it was still a hectic day. And Matt needs his snackies or he becomes a dull boy.
I've had quite a few days lately of waking up unusually early and then being asleep by 7:30 p.m. So the fact that I'm both awake and alert is somewhat of a miracle.
Actually, that was me this morning too. Also, I'm up at 5 o'clock and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, like my brain is still not adjusted to the fact that I do 9 to 5 Monday to Friday yet. So I ended up sleeping like 12 hours yesterday. Like I didn't end up getting to bed until like almost 2 in the morning, or probably a bit after.
Oh yeah, the first couple weeks of full time, you'll drag until you just have that burnout. Then you'll feel great afterwards.
Like I ended up like I woke up at one point to go to the toilet, then went back to sleep, figuring, I'll wake up before midday, and then I wake up at like almost 2 in the afternoon.
Shit.
And I'm like,
shit.
Oh. Thankfully, though, I have Monday off because I asked for it off because I was thinking that I would have to get another appointment to get a referral to someone to get diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum or something. But then they contacted me, being the person that the referral was sent away to, or at least where this person like is set up anyway. Were like, oh yeah, your referral's been accepted. So I was like, oh sweet, okay, I'll cancel that appointment with the GP then. And then had to like call them at work because I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna have no time, and they're probably gonna be closed by the time I get home. So.
I should really get tested for being dyslexic because I know for a fact I have it. It's just like one of those things that I haven't officially got labeled on.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, at that point, it's worth the test if you're going to get an accommodation that stops you from being screwed over at work or something.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not going to affect you at work or anything like that, then it ends up just costing extra money to get the label without actually helping you.
But yeah, like
I mean, it doesn't hurt me all the time, but it does like frustrate me heavily some days.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, like I was almost thinking of just not having Monday off, and then I was like, with how exhausting this week has been, no, I'll I'll just not say anything. Just
I'm good.
have that Monday off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I showed up for work today, and it's been so hectic, and we've been short-handed for whatever reason so much for the last couple days. I literally got
Mm.
basically told, yeah, quick sign in and go over to the self-checkout right on the other end, like 10 minutes early, which is a pure extra bit of overtime.
Alex mentioned a referral. I think I was trying to schedule my consultation for the root canal that I had a referral for, and I can't find the paper they gave me that I'm supposed to bring with me.
Hmm.
So I think I need to go back to my regular dentist and get a new referral before I call them.
Mm.
Jeez.
All right.
Unless they can just send it directly to them for you.
Mhm.
Either way, you probably have to get a hold of your dentist.
Mm.
All right. On tonight's show, we have a little bit of birthdays, little bit of news. We've got a couple movies and geek talk, and then we have our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings.
Okay, so starting with the birthdays, on the 4th of March, we have Matt Lucas, who played Nardole from 2015 to 2017, among a plethora of other stuff he's known for, turned 50. On the 7th of March, we have Gordon Fleming, who was the director of the Aru Doctor Who movies, would have been 90, but died in 95 at the age of 61. Also on the 7th, we have Brian Hales, who wrote 6 serials between 66 and 74, and was a creator of The Toymaker and The Ice Warriors. Would have been 94, but died in 1978 at the age of 48. And finally, on the 9th of March, we have Chris Clough. I'm not really entirely sure how that pronounced. Maybe it could be Clo. I'm not sure. So apologies
Or
if I got that wrong.
Clow, possibly.
Yeah. Director of 6 serials from 86 to 88. Turns 73. So happy birthday to Matt, Gordon, Brian, and Chris.
All right. Our first piece of news is actually rating this not as bad as some of the headlines would have led me to believe. So it's BBC to explore AI generated marketing, starting with Doctor Who. So first off, this kind of says how just out of touch marketing teams are. That I think they thought this was going to be like a good piece of promotion. Like they're going to get the audience excited by announcing this, despite the fact that people have generally just been pissed off at the way so much of this, generative AI is mostly just, scraping art and putting it together as an excuse to not employ artists. So what? Looking at the yeah, so I'll use a direct quote. And by the way, apparently the backlash on this was bad enough that the BBC took the press release down. But Cultbox preserved some quotes from it. So this was from David Housden, head of media inventory digital at BBC. And okay, really, scroll properly, please. Okay. We will be creating human written marketing copy for a Doctor Who push notification email subject line, and in the promotional rail on BBC Search. Then we will be using generative AI to suggest copy variations, which are then reviewed and approved by our marketing team before being shown to the audience. Success will be measured by click rates, open rates, and post-impression conversion rates across each channel. So basically, they're conducting marketing research using ChatGPT with Doctor Who, and they decided to make a big press release over it, thinking that it would be well received, and it was not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make arguments for where AI would be good, especially as someone who does do a little dabbling here and there. But a big freaking marketing team inside of a big company like the BBC does not need it.
I mean, if I understand, like conducting marketing research with new things makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think this really
But if this
merited
is-
a big announcement. And in fact, the big announcement, I think, makes it look worse. Because it makes it like when people think like marketing AI, they think of those like uncanny valley images with the 7 fingers and claws and
Yeah.
way too big smiles. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, the ones that are pretty much an excuse not to pay an artist. And I think that was probably what a lot of people's gut reaction to these headlines were.
I mean, that's what my gut reaction is to
Mm-hmm.
it
That's what it sounded like to
now.
me, yeah.
And I mean, I still think, I mean, on one hand, as as a writing minor, I definitely think it's a good idea to be paying actual writers for your social media marketing. On the other hand, I'm not going to pretend that people haven't been using Grammarly and Grammar Check for a decade or longer. So people have been using forms of AI in that sort of work for years. It just is how you go about it. If you go about it in a dumb way and use that as an excuse to cut costs on humans, then you usually see your bad results. If you use it as a way to support your existing human team in an ethical manner, then you usually see positive results.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, if they'd have not said anything, people would have only noticed if it like had really been just being putting out like broken English, garbled sentences or something.
And it
So they
says
could have
that they're
easily just
reviewing
not
and
said
approving
anything.
things with their marketing team. So
So they're going to be trying to
they
avoid
really
anything like
did
that.
not need to say anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just they wanted to be Well, they say in the article that they want to be transparent about it, but
It's the fact that they're putting such an emphasis on it, that's like that, like other than just being out of touch, it does make me feel like they're going to be like, well, because this was so successful, we're firing our social media team or something like that. And that would be the wrong message to take from this. And that would be probably the worst case scenario from this. Well, worst case other than them like using it in all sorts of other things, like making, like apparently Marvel did with Secret Invasion, making episode art using generative AI instead of hiring an
I
artist.
believe it was the opening, or at least for a couple episodes, it was the opening they used it for, yeah.
All right, moving on with the news. We have our big finish releases. On the 5th of March was the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 13, Storm of the Sea Devils, written by Robert Kahn, Tom Salinsky, and David K. Barnes, and starring Tom Baker and Eleanor Crooks. And on March 7th was Torchwood Tube Strike, written by Gareth David Lloyd, and starring Gareth David Lloyd and Timothy Benting. So written by Ian... Ian is got Yanto. Okay, I did get the first 3 letters right. I knew there was an Ian in his name. Written by Yanto, starring Yanto.
Yes. I think it's not the first time either.
Also, in some Big Finish news, we have an announcement. So, for those that don't know, the New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield was kind of the first range that Big Finish did before Doctor Who. And they've kind of on and off continued that throughout the years, sometimes with the Doctor, usually without. Um, so they do have an announcement that that series is continuing uh, now. The New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield, The Eternity Club, will appear and it will be in a serialized format with two 30-minute episodes released each month between September and December 2024. And it looks like they've already got the names and writers for those all lined up. So for Bernice Summerfield fans, there are things to look forward to. And that is actually the end of our news. Which still brings it back to me because the first thing on our Geek Talk is, well, since this episode that we're reviewing is focused on Metropolis,
Been
I
telling
thought
you
it
a
would be a
long
good
time. You
idea.
should be watching it.
Yeah, I kind of remembered. Oh yeah, I haven't actually watched Metropolis yet, even though it's like the imagery from it is like a constant presence in sci-fi circles. So it kind of feels like everyone's already watched it, but I definitely had not watched it before. So I took some time out today to watch it on Tubie. And my first reaction was you couldn't make this today because everybody would be first everyone would be complaining that it was too on the nose. They're literally like the capitalist guy is the big is well one of the main bad guys. There's a nepo baby tower and all of the working class like are treated as being sacrificed to machines. Everyone would be like, they're hitting us over the head with this woke movie, and acting as if it was a brand new thing. So yeah, this movie is 100 years old, give or take 3 years. So, yeah. The people who weren't saying that would be saying that Maria deserved it for trying to, I don't know, talk to people and being a woman in the movie. Or so yeah.
Yeah,
I guess I mean I won't say it was super successful back then. So maybe we just have not evolved in the past 100 years. Our society is identical to what it was.
did you watch the full version? Because I thought that there was.
There's like five different
know that
versions out there at this point.
Yeah,
I
including the
watched
music video version that Matt had found.
I watched the version on Tubi, which is not black and white. It does look like it's somewhat remastered because the film does not like it looks too clear and clean to be like the way it would have been like
a majority of it is.
back
It's
then.
the majority of it has been enhanced for a long time. To be fair,
That makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, it's not the color version because I know there's a color version there.
Yeah, this is the 2 hour and 23 minute version.
so it's one of the longer versions. There's still like
So is the
Okay.
Metropolis full runtime, I should say.
Okay. I know there was a seemingly very important fight scene that the footage seemed to be missing for. They just put in some narration, which it kind of came across as if they're like, yeah, we lost this part of the film, and we're not refilming it.
There's, I think, somewhere
It's-
around roughly 10 to 20 minutes of footage that will never be recovered unless someone
Makes
somewhere
sense.
somehow uncovers a hidden stash of it somewhere.
Right. Okay.
Because
Yeah,
this is
so
this is one of the movies that were attacked by that group from the 1930s, 40s.
Oh, I definitely believe that.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Especially,
So-
especially given what happens in the review we'll be talking about later.
So the full runtime for Metropolis is 148 minutes, or nearly 2.5 hours.
Also, it's not even the
That's
complete version. So
And
yeah, there's an even
that
more
is
complete
the
version.
complete version. So
that
it's DVD and Blu-ray editions beginning in 2010 because they did find the complete version of the movie and eventually
At least a
released it.
very much almost complete. I think there's like, yeah, I think the super extended at 140 is like missing maybe a couple seconds here and there, but it's going to be hardly noticeable because the majority of what is actually needed is finally there. It's just that all that missing stuff is very rough still, I believe. There's not much they could do to clean it up other than sit there and literally redraw frame by frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did have some issues that are mainly due to the time it was made. For example, acting hadn't really been mastered yet, so everybody just had extreme facial expressions, but you couldn't necessarily tell what emotion they had, things like that. I don't really hold that against the movie because it's 100 years old. Um, and also things like it looked like they had heavy makeup for the black and white cameras that sometimes makes a couple of the characters look similar to each other. 99% of the time that was not an issue. As for the plot, um, it was definitely very interesting to look at in terms of if I were to do a critical analysis of it. For example, the fact that one woman dancing provocatively is able to cause riots in their city. That's very interesting. And you could do an hour long analysis of that sort of thing if you wanted to. Um, I feel like I should be coming to a conclusion, and it's escaping me because because it's later than I've been up the past few days. But yeah, it was well, as we've kind of discussed, longer I think than most movies of that time period.
Yeah.
It was it had like I said, some clear themes. Um, it had some action scenes, which is not always the easiest thing to do when you're working with 1920s technology. Um, Bad guy that seems to really like assaulting and kidnapping women. So yeah, it's an interesting movie. At the very least, I think sci-fi fans should watch it. Both, not only is it a cornerstone of sci-fi, but it's an example of the fact that sci-fi is political. If you're writing a science fiction, you're usually writing about some sort of social issue that is on your mind or that exists in the world around you. And this
Well,
is an example of how that is.
a lot of the time it's referred to as speculative fiction as
Yes. Yep. And some would argue spec fic is the only true sci-fi. Um, that said, it's definitely not up to modern writing standards. It definitely, like I said, it's very obvious what the themes are, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But it's generally expected now to be a little bit more subtle. But yeah, I mean, looking at it as a historical piece, I definitely had no issue with it. And I would actually be interested in seeing what the color version looks like. Obviously, it was colorized after the fact, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath on a masterpiece. But
The Marauder version, which I believe runs about an hour and a half, is slightly colorized. It's very basic colorization, but still really clean video. And because Marauder, being a musical man that he was from the 70s and 80s, got a whole bunch of his buddies together to make a new soundtrack for it as well.
oh, that actually sounds like, yeah, because this version very much was like the one where they like in a 1920s cinema where you would just have the one like piano track playing on a loop for 2 hours.
Yeah, the one that Matt's referencing uses a lot of 70s and 80s pop and rock and roll songs as the background music.
Because Marauder had already rubbed elbows with a lot of them.
I think I've heard of that version before. Maybe I'll look it up and see
Apparently,
if it's streaming on anything I don't have to pay for.
Apparently, it got the Razzies when it came out, but honestly, that version is the reason why we even have the full version now. because
Well,
he made an effort to
Mhm.
concerted effort to actually save that movie.
Gotcha.
Actually, it's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube.
I was
Oh,
gonna say, I
nice.
think there's like a penultimate version of it on YouTube, maybe if nothing else.
There you go. I
Uh,
put it in the thing here.
Oh, nice. And yeah, I have not been timing myself, but I'm pretty sure I went
Yeah,
longer
should
than
be
I
good.
meant to with
Yep.
this. So,
So
Aaron, with Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I did. I didn't even realize it was out until now, but yes, I went and saw Dune Part 2. It is very good. I felt it was much more dense than Part 1, just, overall some felt like more stuff was going on. Some people in the audience with me would probably argue otherwise. For example, I was with my boyfriend Chris, and Chris kind of felt that it was a little too long. I guess I could see that, but I love just kind of it's Dune, of course, so it's going to be kind of religious in its tone and stuff like that. And I like the fervor that's kind of echoed in it, the crescendo of the music and the sound design. The cinematography was amazing. The Harkonnen homeworld was amazing and stuff. And of course, we've got Fayed in this, so uh as nasty and as nasty as ever.
Mm.
So, and yeah, and it was just like, and even it was just very enjoyable. I liked it, and I would highly recommend it. But I also like movies that are a little bit more contemplative. There is
Mm.
action in it, but a lot of the action sequences are pretty brief because it's lethal. The combat in this is lethal. All it takes is like
Yeah.
one stab and you're down.
Mm.
So I guess if you're into action adventure, you'd probably be kind of bored by this. This is much more philosophical, looking
Yeah.
into ethics and morality, different types of cultures and religions. We look at the Harkonnen culture in their homeworld, of course, more of the Fremen. We don't get much of the Atreides, but we got that in the first film.
Mm.
We see it in how Paul is at the first part of this film. You see the Imperial culture, what it's like to be on the Imperial homeworld with the Emperor and his daughter. What else do we see? There was another one that I was going to point out, but I think those are the four main ones, and I really like that because we do kind of
Mm.
see a little bit more, even if it's kind of basic. We get to see more of what it's like to be hanging out with the Emperor and what kind of person
Mm.
he is.
And the casting is actually pretty like caught me
Yeah.
off guard when I saw it for the Emperor in this one.
Oh yeah, well he's in the first movie, I believe, but very briefly, so it's easy to kind of
Mm.
forget. I think I'm pretty sure he's in the first film, and it's just like, oh man, oh wait, maybe he's not. Maybe it's just
I don't
because I
think I
saw a
don't think he
trailer
is.
with him in it.
I don't remember him being in it, but he might have been in like the very, very beginning.
Yeah, the very very
Mm.
beginning, or the no,
It might
as
be
I
a matter
know.
of like if he was in any trailers, maybe like whatever scenes he had in the original were cut.
Yeah, that could be. I might be confusing the first film with a trailer I saw for the second film
Ah, yeah.
with like the big reveal, because they made the big reveal during
Mm.
one of the trailers for the second film. I think that's what it is, and I'm just confusing it because
Ah, yeah.
they do get like the giant meeting with someone important. I thought it was like the Emperor or his one of his servants. It could have just been one of the Bene Gesserit too. So,
Mm.
Mm.
but I remember them landing and like meeting with Duke Leto and stuff in the first movie. But like I said, like it's probably, I think
Ah,
it's
yeah.
actually
That
the
was
Bene
like
Gesserit
yeah,
landing.
yeah. That was someone on behalf of
Yeah.
the
So
Emperor
yeah.
rather than the Emperor. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's another culture we get to see. Although we don't see a ton of them, we get to see people who are outside all of these systems with what's his face, shit, I forgot his name, the the troubadour, the bard. Ah, fuck. Not Duncan. I had
Gurney?
it too.
Gurney?
Huh?
Yeah.
Gurney. Yeah, Gurney Halleck. So we get to see him and the spice. The people who steal the spice.
Spice Pirates.
Black market dealers.
Yeah, the black marketeers. Was it Han Solo doing the Han Solo thing? Smugglers, the spice smugglers,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So they're they're just like, oh shit, we're out of here. They're not like the Sadakor or the other guards. They don't hang around or anything, and they're in fact wind up, without too many spoilers. We see kind of what happens to them. I think anyway, either that or they just kind of get lost in the shuffle of bodies. So yeah, I highly recommend going to see it.
The funny thing about this movie seemingly feeling like somehow a lot longer than the first part, I think is just because, yeah, as you were saying, it's a lot more dense rather than necessarily being all that, because it's only like 10 minutes longer. That being said, the 10 minutes longer pushes it up to being 15 minutes shy of 3 hours, but still.
Yeah.
Bit long.
Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Up next, we got a small bit from Dune Part 2. It's only about 15 minutes long.
Yeah, I know. Someone in one of the other Discord chats was talking about people complaining about how certain characters were portrayed as villains when they should have been portrayed as heroes. Which, I don't know.
Depends on who they're talking
a different
about.
way of looking at things, huh?
Depends on who they're talking about.
I will. Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but they were talking about how Jessica has a more adversarial position towards Paul in this movie. How she seems to be domineering and pushing him towards this whole Messiah complex, and Chani is the good girl trying to keep him from falling into it and ultimately failing. So
that doesn't quite add up to the books, because Jessica very much was very protective of him, trying not to overstep his bounds. Because she also knew the dangers firsthand.
Yeah, I would assume any adaptation changes are also with it in mind that this director is planning to adapt Dune Messiah.
Well, there's also there's another major change that they made that I'm not sure I agree with. I guess I think they're holding off until like Dune Messiah or even Children of Dune for.
Actually, I heard there was a change that might have nixed Children of Dune, but I don't know all the details on that. But anyway, is that it then?
Yep, that's it for me.
Alright.
All right, which brings us to the summary, which is me. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
And I, thanks to watching the movie, only listened to this once. So hopefully I'll remember the important scenes.
Alright, ready?
Yep.
Alright, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, the doctor arrives at the studio where they are filming Metropolis, and meets Anna Dreyfus, who is the assistant to director Fritz Lang. Apparently, the doctor actually managed to steer the TARDIS and be here on purpose, which is never means something good is going to happen. The doctor, when he arrives, is very surprised that the wrong person is playing the lead role. And instead of a person playing the quote-unquote machine man, who's, as the doctor mentions, is really a woman, but that's besides the point, there is a Cyberman. The doctor, does his thing of telling them that Cybermen are dangerous. And just like happens every time there's a Dalek or a Cyberman, nobody believes him. The the technician in charge of the Cybermen, a man named Dieter, uh, talks to the doctor. Well, first the doctor uses his sonic to uh, basically to hurt the Cyberman and cause it to be in pain, which the doctor points out shouldn't be possible. But then Dieter goes to talk to the doctor and tell him that the Cybermen may be, different or more than he expects, and that it seems to be more human than the doctor says, which the doctor says may be due to the Cybermen being damaged. However, after this, the Cybermen kills first Olaf, who is the person who plays the lead in Metropolis, which the doctor mentions, is not supposed to be the right person, and then tries to kill the doctor. The doctor tries to use his sonic to disable it again, but fails, and then manages to use a prop pen that has gold plating to disable the Cybermen, because we're going off of, badge rule, Earthshock rules. I'm trying to remember, what was it? Badge of Academic Excellence was the name of the badge, whatever.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. They find the dead actor, and then they continue investigating, and then realize that the reason why Dieter is not one of the people that the Cyberman wants to kill is because Dieter is the one controlling the Cybermen and ordering it to kill everybody. He's doing this because he lives in 1920s Germany and is suffering all of the effects of the post-World War I treaty, and believes that the movie's message of peace, the Metropolis movie's message of peace, is a bad idea that they should not be supporting, and that I guess they should instead not be trying for peace, as certain other people in his country would later come to follow several years down the line in the real world. The human within the Cybermen decides that realizes that he has enough free will to stop being ordered to kill, and turns on Dieter, disabling him, which then allows them to arrest Dieter for murder and cover everything up. The doctor takes the Cybermen to watch a screening of Metropolis. And I couldn't remember. Okay, I had to double check a fact. I'm pretty sure the Cyberman either kills itself or makes the doctor do it. Then the doctor goes to Anna and suggests that she leave Germany once she realizes that he knows things that he shouldn't possibly know. Because, it turns out that she has traits that would suggest that she is Jewish. Then the doctor leaves. The end.
4 minutes, 39 seconds. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the air quotes original actor for Fredder is not a thing that exists. I'm pretty sure they went with the actor from the beginning, as far as I know. Fritz Lang is the director.
Right.
Funny fact, he would make another movie in a couple of years, and that would be shortly before he ran for the hills himself and started doing, managed to escape, get to America, and start doing movies in Hollywood.
Ah.
Trying to think if there's any other important stuff other than that movie was awesome for its time, but
Oh yeah, looking at it, looks like Lang was had at least one of his movies banned by the Nazis before
Well,
yeah, during that time, so makes sense.
oh, it was more than one. The Metropolis got chopped to bits in other countries, and then became extremely hard to find afterwards because of what the party did to his
Well,
movie.
I meant
But
as
then
in
there
like
was
banned to his face.
that was about to be
Apparently,
that. I think that's the next one that he managed to do before he
Mm.
ran. Is that he knew they were about to completely do away with it and possibly do away with him if he didn't
oh
make
yeah,
corrections,
looks like
so he ran
they
for it.
they they offered him a job in the propaganda office. Yeah,
Yeah, he wanted none of that.
he's like, no.
A matter of fact, his last movie that he made, actually, I believe that last movie somehow managed to get copies made before the party got its hands on it, so other countries actually had the full version, even though we didn't have a good translation of it for a while.
Fair.
The funny thing, the crazy mad scientist from the Metropolis is a dead main character for that next movie that he made, and he starts speaking a lot of shit that would make a certain leader very pissed off. Also, more funny fact is that actor, sadly, for some reason, started to join the party.
Ah,
So it's kind of
Yeah.
it's actually in a way though it's kind of amusing that he didn't notice what he was doing.
right.
It's kind of like, oh, well then.
That's just like we've had some Superman actors that went on to espouse some very un-Superman ideologies. So,
Oof.
since you seem to be leading our historical fact check session, any idea if Hell is a common German name? Or...
I'm not sure why they
So-
picked that name, other than it has multiple religious overtones.
Yeah, like
as far as I'm aware.
as a name, I only know it for the Norse goddess, but I don't know
Yeah.
if.
That is, I think,
Norse
is probably
goddess
the
of
main
death.
reason because while there is a lot of Christian overtones, they seem to kind of hodgepodge randomly pick other overtones to mix in too.
Yeah, I guess the reason I ask is in terms of in terms of the movie, it doesn't seem to hurt. Like, well, I guess there could be an argument because they tried to make
They're trying to uphold
the
her as
android
a,
woman, like they named the android woman after her, or at least the inventor does.
yeah. And he
So-
tries to
Also
hold her
means
up almost
to-
as a goddess in of herself, and he's a bit over obsessed.
That's right. If I had written down thoughts, yeah, that was something I was going to bring up talking about Metropolis, where it's like, yeah, here's the guy. If you're the leader of this company / city, are you going to go to the guy who made a sex bot of your dead wife and ask him for help and expect it to go well? Because
I mean, on this website called Behind the Name, it also means to conceal and to cover in Old Norse.
okay.
That kind of does lend a
So-
little credence to that idea
And
too. That makes
goddess of
sense of
the-
that robot at least.
And
Yeah.
goddess of the underworld. She's also the daughter, and for Norse mythology, she's also the daughter of the trickster god Loki. In which case, she's
Right.
she's tricking the workers into following her.
And in Marvel, she's Loki's adopted sister, which doesn't make it weird at all.
Just
I
you
mean,
just
weirder
kind of want to
things
make a
have
comment,
happened
then
in
kind of stop and hang there for a second, then just go, never mind, and walk away. Because Loki's also
I
had
mean-
children.
Yes.
As a horse.
With 6 legs
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a serpent. Well, yeah, one with no legs. 6 legs, no legs.
He's not always
But
been
where-
the male in those couplings either.
We've gone from talking about the
Anywho,
audio
yeah.
to talking about the movie to talking about Norse mythology. So, the pecking order. And even though it's your first time back, the dice said that
Oh,
you go
good.
first, Aaron. So,
Okay.
what did you like about the episode?
I like the atmosphere.
Hmm.
I thought that they kind of they lent although it did kind of feel like old Hollywood and stuff, and I had to remind myself that it's actually taking place in Germany. I felt the old timey feel of, creating a movie back in the early 1920s was conveyed pretty well. A lot of people running around trying to get stuff done, and a sense of urgency from the director and even from like some of the cast and crew.
Mhm.
Um,
The peak of silent films, as compared to
yeah,
what other kind?
yeah, just like the hustle and bustle and stuff. I guess it could have probably used a little bit more like special or a little bit more audio effects for that, but like, yeah, my that's kind of what struck me, is that it was kind of appealing that with that.
All right, Matt.
Um, in general, I enjoyed the Cyberman as a mystery box because they dropped the Cyberman on us really quickly, so you feel like there's no mystery to begin with. But then it slowly kind of peels back layers as we delve deeper into what's going on here, and you start to realize something's not quite right. First of all, the Cyberman mentioning anything of pain is like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, what?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So something's obviously not quite normal here. And that was a nice. It was a nice to just get to the point of the Cyberman, but then to slowly go. There's more here. You keep pulling on that thread. Just keep going. See where it's going to take us.
Mm.
All
So-
right, Alex.
Kind of. I guess piggybacking off it, it's like it's slightly different enough.
Oh no, you're gonna take mine then.
The fact that this is like another one of those, like, oh, you can't trust, staple Doctor Who villain, but in this case, it's kind of a twist on that by virtue of the fact that no, this Cyberman's actually fine. It's the human ordering it around that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas normally, in fact, I don't know if that kind of thing has been. Maybe you could argue when RTD brought them back in New Who, that was sort of a thing because
I mean, pretty much anytime there's a human ordering a Cyberman or a Dalek around, they either get killed as soon as they get on the thing's nerves, or you find out that it was all a front and they were just tricking the human and doing their own thing when their back was turned.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I just use they a lot, but granted, it's always been a he, but it's not inherently a he thing.
Yeah, like, because generally what like initially was coming to mind before the twist was like, oh, so this is like Power of the Daleks or like Victory of the Daleks, where it's like, oh, you can't trust that, and everyone else is like, it's fine, and then it's a Dalek, so curse your
that's a
son, but
Dalek
never leave
voice.
betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this moment, I can't do a good Cyberman voice.
But yeah, like, so it was really nice that like they completely subverted my expectations of where this was gonna go, given that considering this is this came out like what, a year or two ago. It's fairly well trodden ground if the Cyberman had just turned out to be a straight up normal Cyberman that was just playing
Speaking
dumb.
of when it came out, I listened to the behind the scenes features since Aaron had mentioned them. And I like how Christopher Eccleston was like, the best part about this is even though it's a pandemic, I'm working. And I was like, oh great. So he's doing it for a job. I mean, granted, that's where they're all doing it for a job, but you always usually the Doctor actors, you're like, oh yes, I love returning to this character after time. And he's like, the best part is that I'm working.
Well, let's also be fair. He was struggling to find decent work for a little while there too. That poor second Thor movie did him no favors.
Yeah.
He was basically wasted on that film.
Which I'm now suddenly realizing that this is actually the first time that his doctor has encountered a Cyberman before.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, they talk about that
Yeah.
on the behind the scenes as well.
Mm.
They're like, there's nothing on screen saying that he didn't meet a Cyberman off screen.
Right.
So mine is similar to yours, but it's also very slightly different in that I really like the way they use the Cybermen as the
Mm.
as basically as the ally that overcomes the villain. They've done it in modern Who, but never as good as this.
Yeah.
I think,
Ironically, this actually probably fits the Frankenstein thing more than
yeah, kind
Mhm.
of
Haunting of Villa Diodati did.
right. But it's because yeah, they did it with I forget if in the next Doctor I think they did something with her still being conscious. They did it with the
Mm.
they did it in the Moffat era with Craig. Oh yeah, and they did it with in Doomsday with I did my duty for Queen and Country, where she just
Yeah.
kind of
She
turns
wasn't
on
full.
her fellows. She
Yeah.
turns on her
Mm.
fellow cybers and mows them down. But I think this is done better than any of those examples where you just have this, person who's tired of, being a Cyberman and being a puppet and he can do something about it. So he,
Mm.
does something about it. And it
Yeah.
hits a lot more emotional notes than any of
Oh
those.
yeah.
All right. What did we dislike about the episode, Aaron?
Mm, gosh, I'm trying to think. Is it really bad enough that I needed to like just not hear it?
If you have to be nitpicky, feel free to be nitpicky.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll admit it. It's a nitpick
I
if it's a nitpick.
guess the snooty actor
Oh,
is just like, I know
typical.
he's in there for a reason. The Cyberman needs to kill someone everybody hates.
He's
Because if it
literally
kills-
the foil for Jason Voorhees in a Friday 13th movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, this guy's gonna get axed because he's the jerk. So,
Wait, I mean, the doctor says straight from the beginning, "Hey, you shouldn't be here."
yeah,
What a giant
Exactly.
asshole. I hope his head gets crushed like a grape.
mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that. The Cyberman's coming for him. Ah, dreams do come true.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's really the thing. I mean, and it is sad. I don't even know if it's really satisfying when he dies. I mean, it's kind of satisfying when he's like trying to convince himself that he's not scared of it. We
Yeah,
know
I will say I was satisfied for just for the fact that the Cyberman knew enough to toy with him for a few moments.
I think he needed to last another 10 to 15 minutes for me to feel anything at all about him. Because it was
Yeah.
pretty much right in the beginning. It was, okay, here's this guy. History says he's not supposed to be here. Oh, here's a Cyberman. Okay, now the guy is dead.
Yep. This makes perfect sense.
Yep.
He died as he lived, a prick.
All right,
yeah.
Matt, what did you dislike?
Oh, what did I dislike?
Matt, you're still on stopwatches, by the way. You know that, right?
Am I? Oh, shoot.
Oh, the
Those amazing stopwatches.
Enjoy the yellow stopwatch in particular. Anyways, yeah. Tall card. Oops. Oh, okay. That was just the update on the journal thing I didn't care for. Honestly, there was some of it, but there just was. It felt like they had some good sound effects here and there, mostly during like the Cyberman moments. But it felt like the onstage stuff outside of like background voices lacked any kind of like movement noises when you felt like they needed something.
Yeah, Aaron kind of mentioned that
Yeah.
during the likes a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of the sound design didn't really sell to like being on a film set.
It didn't sell this film set, but it sold everything else around it, thankfully. So you kind of bought into it anyways.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just felt like there's something lacking here and there once in a while.
Mm.
It's a nitpick, but it was something that I did notice here. In particular, when they're getting shouted at to do something, even though we don't have sound effects to tell us what.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, because I feel like they don't really have the main range anymore, but I definitely feel like if it were part of the main range for Big Finish, they would they usually pull out all the stops for things like that, but the side ranges might not get quite as much attention.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm.
All right, Alex.
This is probably just like, I get why, but I'm also like, this would have worked so much better to me if the Cybermen had not sounded like a modern Who Cyberman. It would have just, like, I'm not saying it had to be Mondasian Cybermen, although that would have kind of fit for the time period.
Yeah, this sounded like the fact that they even went for the chest vent sounded like they should have gone with at least a 70s or 80s Cyberman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
Like,
I'm trying to remember. Did they even? Because I remember the 70s, they did not do a lot with them. Did they even have a special voice?
They had a mechanical voice for it. Yeah, they had a particular voice for it. Although I do recall occasionally they would get too far from their modulator microphone, so they just sound like a guy with a muffled mask on.
I think that might be
So it had occasional issues in the 70s, but they did have a tinny voice.
I think they kind of used the same 10-year-old masks and just like
they forgot to update some of the bits.
If I remember right, okay. Which obviously that's not an issue for an audio drama, but
should be. Yeah, that would be something easily fixed for an audio, but yeah.
Maybe that I was sitting there. I was like, there was some sort of dissonance with the voice that I couldn't quite place what was weird in my head about it. I was like, it's definitely not a 60s Cyberman. But that was, I think that's the issue.
It is very much a modern Cyberman, which a lot of them
looks like a
have
70s one,
anymore.
but it sounds like a modern one, yeah.
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 Whereas it would have made sense being either a 60s or 70s or 80s Cyberman. In my head,
I say 60s as if there weren't like 5 different voices for the 60s Cybermen.
Yeah. Like, I think the one thing that was almost making me go, well, it could be the Cyberman that I feel like it should be, because the voice is a bit too monotone, which fits for a Cyberman, but when they're trying to have emotion come through because the person's coming back in more, it doesn't work as much for the one I can think of, which is like the earliest version I can think of with the "You will be like us."
You will be like us. Yeah. No. That's definitely not the early 60s one, no.
Oh, what am I thinking of? I think it's a Tuba Cyberman. Cyberman, I think, is what I'm thinking of. Is the voice I'm thinking of, or it's very monotone and
it's very mechanical,
robotic.
Yeah.
And it's like that probably wouldn't have worked as well for what they're going for, but just like one of the like
Cybermen, they had the like cancer voice that you could barely understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the little voice box thingy. Sound to it, yeah.
Yeah, but just like generally making this a classic Who one would have just, again, especially with, as Bill pointed out, like the whole thing with trying to use gold to get it into their filtration system and shit, would have made a lot more sense with a classic one. And like most you could say would work. I almost feel like they just went with modern Who because that you could make more of a direct relation to a more modern Cyberman, the RTD era ones, and Metropolis. Maybe that's why.
I think it's
and just because they got Nick Briggs.
I'm not even sure if I've ever seen them use any other than they use the Mondasian voice when it's a very clear Mondasian, and then they use the modern, post 2005 voice I don't know if I've ever seen them use anything in between.
Is the
Would they
image
have
they're
used
using?
the Would they have used the 80s Cyberleader?
Oh yeah, they did. They did. I don't think
I I think
I've
they
bought
used the leader a
those, but
couple
I think
times,
they
and the
did a
commander
couple
has come back a
times.
couple times too from the 80s.
Yeah, just not in ones
Hmm.
that I've bought. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. Which merits a soundboard.
Excellent.
Where were we?
So
We
I
kind
think
of got
that's
off
I
basically
track a
thought
all
little
Aaron
bit.
was
mine,
asking
so
something really
Tubie.
quick, but I can't remember what it was.
I was just going to point out the image they're using, and I haven't actually watched Doctor Who in a long time. But like, is the image they're using for the box art that's a modern one, isn't it, or is that a classic
It
Cyberman?
looks like
It
a new version
it
of
looks
the like
yeah
late 60s, 70s one.
yeah it looks like a newer
Hmm.
version of like the 70s into the 80s that we haven't
Like
seen
Okay.
before.
the bot, like the chest plate and such. That looks like an original design to me, unless I'm
Ex-
misremembering something.
It looks like a combination of bits, but I think some of it looks like it might have been a 60s Cyberman originally for the chess
Mm.
piece, but it looks like there's some new parts to it.
And by 60s, that would definitely be Invasion and not anything before that, I think.
Yeah, because its head looks round, almost like almost almond or oval shape.
Yeah, the head in
Mhm.
particular
Kind of
looks
thing.
way
Mm.
different than the 70s one or late 60s ones. So it looks like it's trying to come into the 80s one, but it hasn't quite reached there yet.
Ooh.
So it is like kind of pseudo their own design of it, but
Hmm.
the voice is very obviously Modern Who.
Yeah. But it definitely doesn't match any of the like post 2005 body shapes or
No.
helmets or anything.
Mm-mm. So it's a weird combination of things.
Hmm.
Right, on track again. I
Yep,
believe
so it's Bill now.
Is it me? Okay.
I was gonna say I think that was
So
Alex, so I think that leads to Bill.
I don't think saying that their casting made it hard to make a title card counts as a complaint about about the drama, does it?
Not particularly.
Which yeah,
That's a
trying
post
to make
production issue.
trying to make a black man look like a 1920s German nationalist is not very easy. Um, and I probably did not succeed, but I came as close as I could. But yeah, if that doesn't count, um, I don't know if I really have a complaint about this that hasn't been covered already. Um, Other than the fact that like Fritz Lang seems like kind of oblivious, like just bumping into the edges of the story and having no idea what's going on. But
But that's to
I
be
mean,
obvious because he's focused on making his movie.
right, yeah. And of course, yeah, we don't want to like cause the actual movie to become an anachronism. So yeah, that's not even really a complaint. So yeah, I guess I'll pass.
Okay, doke.
Oh, which brings us to favorite scenes. Aaron.
I think my favorite scene is just, I know it's kind of bloodthirsty of it, and but where the Cyberman finally kills his tormentor, or its tormentor, I should say, because we don't
Oh,
really know.
He actually
never
doesn't
killed
kill
him.
him because he gets arrested for murder.
He strangles him for a
Oh,
few
yeah, that's
moments,
right.
though.
I thought because I thought he would died, but I could
No,
be.
they
I only
even
watched
mentioned
it- I only
afterwards, like
watched
a
it
few seconds
once.
later, that he got arrested.
Which that
Oh,
actually
okay.
makes sense because he's like, I'm tired of killing. I'm tired of being forced to do like to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably not going to kill of his own free will.
Mm-hmm. So I only listened to it once, so sorry, my mistake. But yeah, just like when he does try to attack him though, doesn't he? Oh wait, no, he tells it to attack the doctor, and it says no. Basically, the end scene where the Cyberman is
Mhm.
just like, nope, I've had it, I'm free now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't have to do what you tell me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
All right, Matt.
It was. I think someone else very briefly mentioned it. I'll mention it here. The last words out of the Cybermen were kind of heart tuggers, even if it was a bit of an odd voice. You could tell that they were definitely hitting for something there really hard, and it kind of almost did stir me a bit. The whole I don't want to be. You can't predict what's going to happen to me. I am a danger as much as I would like to go on. I can't be trusted to go on. There's going to be more evil people out there no matter where you take me to. It's best that I'm not here.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of stuff.
Mm.
I can't even remember who I am. But I know what I am now, and what I am is a good person who can always control what they're going to do, and it needs to stop.
Which
That
again,
actually
I'm realizing kind of fits into what I was saying earlier of like, this is very kind of fits in with Frankenstein more than New Who's attempt at
Right.
Frankenstein, because that just,
Because
as
the
Matt was saying,
monster
that
in
all
the
I can
original
think of
story
is the line of,
just sends itself out on an iceberg because he realizes he's done too much to his creator already.
oh yeah, I forget what movie it is. Maybe it's Bride of Frankenstein. There's like a moment where Frankenstein just says something to the effect of like, "We belong dead."
I
Or
believe
something like that.
there's something to that effect, where he tells his creator to leave, we stay, and makes sure that the evil scientist stays with them too.
But yeah, mentioning that ending actually reminds me of something I should have said for what I dislike about the story, and that's despite everything, it's hard for me to believe, regardless of how damaged the Cyberman was or anything like that, that this one person from the early 20th century was able to control a Cyberman in any capacity.
Yeah.
It's necessary for the story, but it strains credibility.
Mhm.
Well,
Or
even as the
credulity.
guy states, he very much lucked into it, but it was something that his luck was going to run thin on eventually anyway.
Right.
Mm.
All right, so back to that would be Alex's favorite scene next.
Yep. Ugh. God, I feel like I had one, but I might have lost it. You know what? I think I'll go with like the very end of like the doctor realizing that woman is Jewish and being like, get the hell out of Germany as soon as you can.
That's the scene I was about to say. Yeah, she's like she realizes that he clearly knows things that he shouldn't, is starting to realize he might be from the future, and he's like, okay, you know this much, so I'm not going to tell you what's going to come, but I'm going to give you a warning. And
Yeah.
it very much fits into the fires of Pompeii. At least save this one, save someone.
Yeah. Especially because like in the grand history, who's gonna know this one production assistant?
Well, it also
Kind of a
fits into
thing.
what we see in the TV movie of the Eighth Doctor as well. He's willing to land hard hints to people that might need them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so I was really banking on being able to use that scene. It's nice to have enough people here that I have to
I have to actually
think about
struggle.
backups. Yeah. Um, I'll say I really like it was really like from a cinematicity, is that a word? The power of the moment when Dieter reveals himself to be the bad guy. When
Yeah.
when they're just like, "Oh, wait, he's not trying to kill him, is he?" He's like, "Why would he try to kill his master?" It's like he's kind of hamming it up, but it's in a good way.
Yeah, and I think what really sells that is just the fact that he's been sounding meek all this time, and then he just sounds
Yeah,
very. It's a complete
he
shift in
turns on a dime.
personality.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, least favorite scenes, Aaron.
Hmm. Least favorite scene when they like find the body of the dead actor. Like I didn't. They're just like, oh, look over there, and it's just like there's like no cries of dismay or anything like that to hint that human life that someone just died.
Yeah.
Hey kids, want to see a
So
dead body?
yeah, kind of like, oh, there's a dead body over there. And it's just like, shouldn't you be freaking out a little bit more? As far as I know of, isn't he kind of the only person the Cyberman kills in this?
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
so.
He was
So,
probably one of the main targets
unless
from the
there's,
guy who was trying to control it. So
yeah, unless he's like he's the first one to die, so people should be extra kind of freaked out. Like, how did this happen?
Mm.
Oh my god, there's a murderer around. Like, they
I mean,
would
yeah, like
probably.
the doctor wouldn't be even a little surprised, but other people should have been more, yeah.
Yeah, especially considering that they're like, who is that? Oh, I think it's Olaf. What's left of him anyway. So it's like clearly he was messed up.
Yeah. It's like, what, is he torn limb from limb or something? Weird.
well,
And,
Did his
I
head
do
get
believe I
crushed or
heard
something?
blows being made. So apparently he must have turned that poor Orlov's face into pudding.
Hmm. Jeez, yeah, that's it for me. Yeah.
okay, Matt.
Least favorite scene. Um, I have to say it's very stereotypical. The whole, oh, it's nothing. It's our stuntman or our special project or whatever. And it's just like, this person's obviously freaking out and telling you things that don't clink up the way you think of this thing. Can we please let the man who seems to know something extra about this weird robotic man actually say his piece without people interfering? And also, didn't you see the weird widget he pulled out? Can we at least say that the man with the weird widget that somehow can harm this thing out of the clear blue sky might have something to say about this thing that's important? Just maybe.
But they also had a widget that could hurt it. They had a pen, which, as everyone knows, is kryptonite to a Cyberman.
Only if it's gold plated.
Which, God, using that must fuck up the pen enough that it can't be used for the movie. You'd have to think.
Hmm.
I was gonna say it kind of sounded like it gets ground up somewhat.
At least a little bit. Oops. Oh well. Guess we'll have to sell for fancy pen number 2.
So yours was not believing the doctor. All right,
Even though they
Alex.
obviously should have.
Yep.
um. Hmm. You know what? I'm gonna go with uh the Simon being sicked onto Fritz Lang because Fritz takes way too much fucking time to realize that something's going bad here. And it's just like, come on, mate. How are you this thick? Like, it's saying kill Fritz Lang, and he's still just standing there like, what? What's going on here? Like, maybe run.
He's just like, that's not supposed to be able to speak.
Yeah. Like, at first, it's kind of funny because it's just like, hey, I said no dialogue. But then it's just like, okay, come on. It is coming towards you saying that it wants to kill you. Maybe start moving.
Huh.
All right. And I guess I'm going to go with the scene of Fritz Lang just standing around complaining that he can't get any filming done. 'Cause I'm just like, I don't know. It seems.
From what I understand of the man, he was very hyper focused on his art, so it would possibly be something he legitimately would do in the face
But it's
of
also
danger.
like, there are. I mean, he's talking at sometimes to other actors who aren't in the cat or aren't in the Big Finish cast. So that would imply that he had already gotten filming done. Um, I get that. Oh wait, no, that's was he or at the time was he mad at the? Oh no, he wanted the android. I think the Cyberman.
He
But
wanted either the robot man or the one actor to show up. It didn't matter at that point. He was just frustrated that nothing was working with
Mhm.
the stuff he had ready.
Yeah. Like there's a thing where he's complaining about like I wish like I wish the actors would care about more than the catering, given that they
Mhm.
couldn't film anything.
Yeah, and it's like if he's saying that they're on lunch break, that probably implies that the morning is already passed.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he not film anything in the morning?
They did, but you can't film
Not
anything
a, he
anymore.
said he
Well,
hadn't
yeah,
filmed
the
anything
idea is
yet.
that he's pissed that they can't do more because they're getting
Oh,
held
so
up.
he's just using hyperbole then, because he was saying
Yeah,
Mm.
he was saying nothing had been filmed yet.
I
we
think it
heard
was
them
just like
finish the
nothing
scene.
had been filmed yeah, nothing had been filmed that day, or like
Which
nothing
again,
usable.
Maybe no, it's he was just being hyperbolic. Is what I think he was doing.
Yeah.
He's being very upsetty spaghetti over the fact that he can't get anything done after lunch.
all right. Final thoughts, Aaron.
Um, it was nice to come back to this. I was not pleasantly surprised, but I thought it was very good. I know Big Finishes. I generally enjoy their stuff, so I knew it was going to probably enjoy it in some capacity. So yeah, I would highly recommend. I would. I don't know, highly recommend, but I would recommend it. It's very good. Atmospheric. I like most of the characters. Like I like the assistant lady.
He
The villain. Yeah,
was an
I
interesting
guess.
villain.
He was an interesting villain. Yeah. And it was nice to hear Eccleston back once again. And
After his rough start, yeah, he's been great.
yeah, and having a Cyberman story. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Next.
Yes, to
All
me.
right, Matt.
So good audio cast. And Chris back in the seat as the Ninth Doctor again. Love it. Plus bonus to Cyberman. Plus bonus one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I don't know how you can make this any better other than maybe a few little tweaks and bells and whistles, but that's splitting hairs, honestly. As long as the main story's good, it's all good. That's
That's
my
it.
thoughts. Yeah.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know really what to think going into this, but this was really good. Like for all the like I feel like mostly nitpicky issues I have with this, I can still mostly like overlook them and still enjoy the story. And it is again, as has been pointed out, it's just like it's nice to see Eccleston finally get a story with Cybermen. It only took like fucking almost 20 years after he played the role. um I guess depending on when the things were shot, probably it would be about 20 years 'cause if they shot this in if they shot
Thereabouts.
his
Yeah.
Yeah.
series in
Well, they
2004.
filmed this during lockdown, so it would have been like 2020, 2021.
Right, yeah. Um but yeah, it's like it's very interesting. As I said before, it's nice to have like a oh, don't trust the typical Doctor, like the Doctor Who villain, and it actually be like, no, it's actually fine. It's the human giving it orders that's the problem. Um,
Hmm.
which you could never really get away with a Dalek. So I mean, you can. So it's
Mm-hmm.
if you were gonna do that at
Yeah, if
all.
there's anywhere you'd be able to do
Mhm.
that with a returning Doctor Who villain, it'd be Cybermen out of the two.
Hmm.
Maybe
But yeah,
Ice Warriors, depending upon what era we're in.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah, Ice Warriors have gone back and forth. Yeah,
Hmm.
I was trying to think. I
Um,
was like, Centauran, no. Ogrons, yes. Oh,
um, yeah, I would definitely say this is worth a listen.
Mhm.
all right. Yeah. So I think I'll concur with the others here. I think this was pretty solid. I mean, we had some complaints, but none of them were like earth-shattering complaints.
Yeah, no
Um,
deal breakers.
Yeah.
right. Um, yeah, and it's yeah. I mean, it was very interesting listening to this right after watching the movie. Um, I mentioned in Discord, it was kind of funny that I'm watching a silent movie in order to prepare for an audio drama. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if it would have been maybe nice to see more of the cast of the movie, but at the same time, I know that a lot of these they're working with a very limited cast.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I think we're seeing that the more audios we review, the more we're seeing just how limited their cast is when they don't have the
yeah.
same actor doing five characters. And
Especially if
if
this is recorded during the pandemic, because they wouldn't have been able to
That
record
too.
in the
They
same
wouldn't have been able to
space
get
true, very
either.
everybody.
true,
Yeah.
and that might even be why. Yeah, they might have. Yeah, that might be why some of the other aspects were limited as well. If they
Maybe,
nobody
yeah.
was
If
working
no
from
one
the
could get in the
office,
studio to do everything, yeah.
so they're all there like Amazoning audio equipment and things to their houses and everything.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think it was solid story as others have mentioned. Probably not hitting that bar to be close to perfect, but definitely in the very good side. Which brings us to ratings.
Hmm.
Aaron?
Um, I'm probably gonna have this at hmm. Are we doing partial ratings still too, or
Up to
just
point 0.5.
Point
No,
fives,
point
yeah.
nothing.
five?
No,
I'm
yeah,
gonna put this at 3.5.
Oh.
3.5
Mm-hmm.
out of 5. All right, Matt.
I was at least a 4.5.
4.5. Alex.
Yeah, I'm with Matt. There's enough to keep it from being full marks, but yeah, it's the issues are also just not a bit too nitpicky for me to drop it down too far. So yeah, 4.5 for me as well.
I'm going to agree with the majority. 4.5. It can't quite hit a 5, but I would say better than a 4.0.
It's very close to a 5 for me, I have to admit.
So that brings us to an average of 4.25, which places this at number 150 out of 462 things reviewed. It is on par with let's Girl Deconstructed, which I think was from the same. No, not the same box set. That was earlier on in the Ninth Doctor adventures, I think.
Mm.
Susan's War Part 1 Sphere of Influence, and The Chimes of Midnight. It is not as good as Big Finish Shada, Storm Warning, Destiny of the Doctor Shadow of Death, or Destiny of the Doctor Babelsphere. And it is better than Sixth Doctor The Last Adventure The End of the Line, 10th Doctor Adventure Death and the Queen, Big Finish Destiny of the Doctor Shockwave, or Sarah Jane Smith Comeback. I feel like a lot of those are very familiar. I think I might have said the same ones last. Yeah. Well, no, their last week was not as good as that, so it was not quite so recent. Or maybe, the ones I said not as good as that were better than last week's.
Mm.
But that is all we have to say about Monsters in Metropolis. Make sure to let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've listened to it. Don't forget to like the video if you've listened this far. Subscribe on YouTube to get our exports, hopefully every week. Or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we start our annual look at Torchwood and start the final season with The New World. Written by Russell T. Davies and starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness and Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper. We'll see you then.
Dun dun dun.